little compost set up here. I just made it out of some old pallets. Some of them are getting kind of old by now. And this is winter, so the thing has been put to bed. And but I usually keep it covered with some carpets or something to keep the moisture in, because it's important to keep the compost moist. I imagine it's all frozen now, so well, no, I can dig it up a little bit. See down in there, you'll see some worms. Right there's a bunch of worms. Worms are great for compost. Look at that. Because they, two things, their droppings make good soil, and also as they dig through, it helps with the aeration. One thing that's important in compost is to stir it and loosen it so that you get so oxygen can get to the material to help it decompose. There's a bunch more worms. That's great. The worms like see, look at that. That's neat. I didn't know I had so many. The worms love if you get manure in there. They really go for that. My best compost ever was one year I went to my cousin's place down in east Colorado. And they have a ranch, and I brought back a bunch of cow pies. And you put them in here and add some moisture. They make great composting. One of the risks if you don't do it right is it smells. You know, if you just put a bunch of green grass on a pile, why it can get kind of stinky. The main basics are that you need to mix your browns and greens. You need to keep it stirred up so that it gets some oxygen, and you need to keep moisture in there. So I have this little drip system for my garden, and I put a little sprayer on my compost so that when I water my garden, well, it also adds some moisture to the compost during the summer. Okay. We're in a dry climate, of course, and if you don't water, well, it can just kind of get dry and get like hay in there rather than decomposing. Browns would be dead things like leaves and so on, and greens would be the live grass. So what I do is in the fall I collect my leaves over here, and you'll see it's hard to believe it, but all these leaves all the way along here, by next summer I'll have most of this stuff will be in that little pile there, and will be decomposed down to a smaller amount of material. And I try to keep this moist. I run my hose over here and try to get this wet so that by spring, why there's starting to be some decomposition in these leaves here. And we put our leaves and grass into this compost, and also all of our kitchen scraps. Everything, peelings, apple cores, breadcrumbs. You don't put meat or dairy products in it. Okay. But paper's fine if you have paper napkins or things like that. But anything, you know, if we watermelon rinds or grape, potato peelings, just actually we put very little down the disposal because most of it comes out to the compost. Now during the summer, why we just mix it in as we're adding stuff to the main compost there. But in the winter, when that sort of goes to bed, then we have this little bin over here, and we just put our kitchen stuff in here. It looks kind of junky now, but it keeps adding up, and then in the spring, after I empty that, then I'll empty this stuff and put it in the bottom of my main compost. Spring, I'll dig that out and I'll scatter it some on my garden, although my garden is pretty good shape. But I also add it to my lawn. Just sprinkle it around to give a little more organic matter to the grass. And it looks kind of bad for a week or two, but you get a rain or sprinkle a couple times and it decomposes and dissolves sort of into the grass, and you don't see it at all. And it just adds a little organic material to the lawn base. If you sort of want to get a boost on things, well, you can fertilize in the spring, but I try to do sort of a minimal fertilizing, because you're in a balance between, if you fertilize, then you have to water more. We're out here in a dry climate where we have to water, and so if you fertilize in the spring, then you have to water to keep it green and also to keep it from burning up. And then, of course, we're always trying to conserve water out here, and the more, so you try to get by with as little water as you can. And also, it can get expensive to water. In the summertime, they have different tiers of fees for watering. The first so many gallons is pretty cheap, and then the next level is more expensive per gallon, or 100 or 1,000 gallons, you know. And then the third tier is, it gets pretty expensive. We just have a small yard here, but it costs up to $100 a month for our water. I mean, that's for the lawn and the house and everything. But in the winter, that goes down to, I don't know, 20 or something like that. And if you were trying to do the equivalent and buy that kind of material for your lawn, it'd probably be $50 to $100 at least, I suppose. Okay. But the other thing that I like about it is it reuses all of our materials, so there's very little waste and throwaway and things. So it's partly the economic thing, and partly it's just the feeling of making the most of what you have and reusing your natural materials.